Death is an unavoidable and universal aspect of the human experience. Its inevitability is a certainty for every individual, though the timing and circumstances remain uncertain. Despite the impact of death on humans, societal reluctance to engage in discussions about death is attributed to the discomfort associated with acknowledging one's vulnerability and mortality. So, in today's video, we are exploring different global philosophies surrounding death. Judeo-Christian traditions, rooted in the religious texts of the Bible, introduced distinctive concepts of the afterlife. The evolution of Judeo-Christian concepts of the afterlife involves a progression from vague notions in the Old Testament to more concrete ideas in the New Testament. Augustine and Aquinas played crucial roles in articulating and integrating these beliefs into Christian philosophy. The Hebrew Bible, commonly referred to as the Old Testament, offers intriguing glimpses into the concept of an afterlife. Within its verses, there are references to Sheol, a mysterious underworld where the departed souls dwell in a shadowy existence, marking an initial exploration of what happens beyond mortal life. The narrative of the afterlife becomes more defined and elaborate in the New Testament, particularly with the teachings of Jesus and the writings of the apostles. It is in this part of the Bible that concrete concepts of heaven and hell emerge, introducing the dichotomy of eternal reward and punishment based on one's earthly actions and faith. In developing Christian philosophy, key figures such as Augustine and Aquinas played pivotal roles in integrating these afterlife beliefs into the broader theological framework. Augustine, a prominent Christian theologian and philosopher in the 4th and 5th centuries, addressed the relationship between the earthly and heavenly realms in his monumental work, The City of God. In response to the sack of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 AD, Augustine sought to reconcile the Christian faith with the challenges posed by a crumbling Roman Empire. He argued that there are two cities, the city of God and the city of man, each with its destiny. The city of God represents the eternal and heavenly city, while the city of man embodies the temporal and earthly realm. Augustine envisioned a final judgment, where the righteous would be rewarded with eternal bliss in the city of God, while the wicked would face eternal punishment. The Judeo-Christian worldview, with its emphasis on moral consequences in the afterlife, has left an imprint on Western culture, contributing to the formation of ethical codes and legal principles. In ancient Greece, a civilization that encouraged intellectual and philosophical exploration, the question of the afterlife occupied the minds of great thinkers. Plato, a student of Socrates, dealt with this topic in his dialogue, Phaedo. Within this discourse, he presents the last hours of Socrates, his teacher. According to Plato, the soul is immortal and pre-exists before birth. Death, for Plato, is the liberation of the soul from the material world and the body. He introduces the theory of forms, where the world we see is merely a reflection or imperfect copy of a higher non-material realm of perfect and eternal forms. The soul, being immortal, belongs to this higher realm and is temporarily imprisoned in the body during a person's earthly existence. Death is seen as the separation of the soul from the body, allowing it to return to the realm of forms. Plato suggests that the pursuit of philosophy and the contemplation of eternal truths prepare the soul for the afterlife. Those who engage in a life of integrity and intellectual contemplation are better equipped for the transition from the physical world to the realm of the forms. Aristotle, Plato's student, approached the subject differently. While he did acknowledge the supernatural aspect of the soul, his views on death were not as explicitly metaphysical as Plato's. Aristotle focused on the concept of the soul as the form of the body, meaning that the soul and body are inseparable during a person's life. Unlike Plato, who emphasized the soul's pre-existence, Aristotle argued that the soul comes into being at the same time as the body. Consequently, he did not express a dualistic separation of the soul and body after death. Aristotle was more concerned with the actualization of potentialities and the fulfillment of one's natural purpose. In his ethical works, he stressed the importance of leading a moral life and achieving eudaimonia, or happiness and flourishing. While he did not provide a detailed metaphysical account of an afterlife, Aristotle believed that a life of virtue and moral excellence contributes to human fulfillment. The Greek philosophical emphasis on reason and virtue laid the foundation for Western ethical and moral frameworks, impacting everything from personal ethics to societal structures. In the Aztec community, death played a role as part of the cyclical nature of life. For the Aztecs, life was considered a continuous journey, and death was viewed not as an end, but as a transformative passage. This perspective was deeply intertwined with their religious beliefs and practices, where death held a sacred place in maintaining the cosmic equilibrium. The Aztecs believed in a pantheon of gods and goddesses who governed different aspects of life, and sacrificial practices were performed to honor these deities and uphold the cosmic order. The Aztec worldview was marked by the concept of multiple afterlife destinations, based on the circumstances of one's death. Warriors who died in battle, women who died during childbirth, and sacrificial victims were believed to join the gods in the sun or the heavens. This intricate afterlife cosmology influenced not only individual beliefs about death, but also societal structures and religious rituals. Aztec rituals were characterized by elaborate ceremonies and human sacrifices, particularly during major religious festivals. The sacrificial practices were essential for maintaining the balance of the cosmos and ensuring the existence of both the individual and the community. The Aztecs believed that offering human hearts to the gods was a way of sustaining the divine forces that governed life, death, and rebirth. The philosophical underpinning of these practices highlighted the relationship between life and the divine. Sacrifices were not acts of brutality, but rather solemn rituals with a celestial purpose. This unique stance on death in Aztec culture had an impact on social structures, instilling a collective consciousness that acknowledged the interdependence of humanity and the divine forces governing the universe. Taoism, an ancient Chinese philosophy rooted in the concept of the Tao, offers a perspective on death. Taoism says that the end of life is not a rupture but a harmonious return to the intrinsic order of the universe. Death is a seamless transition within the eternal dance of life, where individuals move back into the embrace of the Tao, relinquishing their physical form but contributing to the ongoing rhythm of existence. This philosophical stance encourages followers to approach death with acceptance and serenity, acknowledging it as an integral and necessary component of the natural order. Taoist rituals and ceremonies are designed not only to honor the deceased, but also to maintain a spiritual connection with ancestors and ensure their continued influence. Funeral ceremonies are conducted with meticulous attention to symbolic gestures and rituals. These may include chanting of scriptures, burning of incense, and the placement of specific ritual objects. Taoists believe that the transition from life to death should be smooth and respectful. Funeral rites often involve the careful arrangement of the deceased's body, dressing them in specific clothing, and placing ritual items in the casket. During the funeral, Taoist priests may recite scriptures and lead mourners in rituals that seek to guide the spirit of the departed into the afterlife. Taoist mourning practices vary, but a common belief is that excessive grief can disrupt the peaceful transition of the soul. Families may observe mourning periods during which they refrain from certain activities and focus on honoring the deceased. Traditional mourning attire, often white or muted colors, may be worn during this period. Mourning periods can last for different durations, depending on regional customs and personal preferences. Meditation, prayer, and the recitation of Taoist scriptures play a role in seeking spiritual harmony and aiding the soul's journey in the afterlife. Taoist burial customs are often influenced by feng shui principles, emphasizing the importance of selecting a burial site with positive energy. Graveyards and tombs are carefully chosen to align with the natural flow of qi, the life force. In some Taoist traditions, cremation is preferred as it is believed to release the soul from the physical body more swiftly. The ashes may then be interred in a designated place with the appropriate rituals. The Existentialist movement, emerging in the 19th and 20th centuries, confronted the existential dilemma of human existence. Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, prominent figures within this philosophical tradition, delved into the absurdity of life. Camus, in his influential work, The Myth of Sisyphus, grappled with the inherent meaninglessness of existence and the futile pursuit of ultimate answers. Existentialists rejected the comfort of traditional religious narratives, contending that life's absurdity necessitates an individual's confrontation with their mortality and the meaninglessness of the universe. In the face of an indifferent cosmos, existentialists urged individuals to create their own meaning and value systems. Death, from the existentialist perspective, became a fundamental concern in defining the meaning of life. Instead of viewing death as a mere endpoint, existentialists saw it as an integral part of the human experience. Sartre, in his famous line, "Existence precedes essence," argued that individuals must confront their existence and define their essence through their choices. He emphasized the radical freedom and responsibility of individuals to create their meaning in a world where traditional foundations had crumbled. Existentialism, with its focus on individual responsibility and the creation of meaning, challenged traditional views on death and the afterlife. Death, rather than being a predetermined fate, became a canvas on which individuals could project their significance. The existentialist perspective on death continues to influence modern philosophy, psychology, and literature, prompting individuals to confront the existential challenges of their mortality. Ancient Egyptian cosmology was rooted in the belief in an afterlife, a realm where the soul embarked on a difficult journey. This journey was filled with challenges, including encounters with gods and judgment of one's actions in life. The significance of mummification exceeded the practical preservation of the body. It was a ritual with spiritual significance. The process of removing internal organs, preserving the body with natron, and adorning it with amulets and ritualistic wrappings served a dual purpose. Firstly, it aimed to maintain the physical form as a recognizable vessel for the soul. Secondly, it symbolized a journey of conversion, reflecting the Egyptian belief in death as a transition rather than an endpoint. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and rituals, provided a comprehensive guide for the soul's navigation through the afterlife. This spiritual roadmap emphasized moral conduct, recitation of specific spells, and understanding divine principles. The Book of the Dead was not a passive text. It was an active tool believed to empower the deceased in overcoming challenges, negotiating divine realms, and ultimately achieving a favorable judgment. The elaborate funerary practices, including grand burial ceremonies and the construction of pyramids, were manifestations of a society deeply invested in ensuring a smooth transition to the afterlife. The construction of pyramids, particularly for pharaohs, was not just a symbol of power and wealth. It was a carefully designed structure believed to facilitate the ruler's ascension to the divine realm. The pyramid, with its pointed apex reaching toward the heavens, was conceived as a tangible link between the earthly and divine dimensions. The careful attention to detail in funerary practices was not driven solely by societal expectations or a fear of the unknown. Rather, it emanated from a belief in the eternal nature of the soul. Death was viewed as a threshold leading to an enduring existence, and the meticulous preparations were seen as essential for a successful journey into this spiritual realm. The enduring legacy of ancient Egyptian funerary practices is evident in the archaeological marvels. These practices provide insights into the cultural, religious, and philosophical dimensions of death in ancient Egypt, shaping both individual and collective consciousness. In the Yoruba religion, originating from the Yoruba people in West Africa, death is not perceived as a finality, but as a transition to the world of ancestors. Ancestor veneration is a central tenet of Yoruba spirituality, emphasizing the ongoing influence of the departed on the lives of the living. Ancestors are believed to maintain a connection with the earthly realm, guiding and influencing familial destinies. This perspective reflects a deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of generations, where the wisdom and experiences of ancestors continue to shape the present and future. Unlike some cultural practices where ancestor veneration may be symbolic, in Yoruba culture, it is an active engagement with the spiritual world. Various rituals, prayers, and offerings are dedicated to ancestors, fostering a sense of communion between the living and the departed. This connection extends beyond biological lineage, encompassing a broader community of ancestors whose contributions form the collective wisdom of the Yoruba people. Yoruba funeral rites are detailed ceremonies that celebrate the life of the deceased and facilitate a smooth transition to the ancestral world. These rituals are rooted in the belief that death is part of a continuous cycle of existence rather than a final endpoint. The ceremonies serve not only to honor the departed, but also to strengthen familial bonds and community ties. From elaborate processions to symbolic offerings, Yoruba funeral rituals reflect a cultural philosophy that embraces death as part of life, intertwining the spiritual and earthly dimensions in a harmonious continuum. The Yoruba perspective on death provides an understanding of the role ancestors play in shaping cultural identity and values. The rituals surrounding death are a testimony to the lasting significance of familial and communal connections, reinforcing the belief that death is a journey within a larger part of life. The philosophical views on death within each culture shape not only individual beliefs, but also societal structures and practices surrounding end-of-life rituals. Understanding these perspectives promotes a greater appreciation for the complex ways in which philosophy and culture connect to provide meaning and guidance in the face of mortality. Despite the diverse philosophical and cultural perspectives on death, common themes emerge: the interconnectedness of life and death, the cyclical nature of existence, and the importance of rituals and ceremonies as bridges between worlds are recurrent motifs that transcend cultural boundaries. As always, thank you for your presence here. We hope to see you again soon.